Hey everyone, welcome back to the Always Arsenal show. This is a special edition tonight. Why is it a special edition, you might ask? Well, it is the 26th of May, and for every Gooner on this planet, we all know what that means. It is Anfield 89, 33 years ago. So, tonight, I've got some really special guests with me, and they were all there. So, to the left of me or right of me, whatever it is, welcome to the show, Barry.
Hi, man. Oh, hi, PG.
Okay,
You excited?
the reason I'm laughing, everyone, is because Barry is my cousin, and this is the man I go to football with and have been for over 50 years. So you've had my dad on the show. Now you've got my cousin who I sit with and have been everywhere with. The only final I missed was Parma in '94. It's the
You
only
did.
one I've missed. You went with Dad, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a seat between us left. Yeah, in homage.
And below me, Julian. Welcome to the Always Arsenal show.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I was feeling quite tired before you started speaking, but the moment you mentioned May 26th, 1989, I suddenly kind of have this feeling that goes from the tip of my toes right to the top of my head. And I just feel invigorated and enthused and motivated. And suddenly the world is a far greater place. So it just that date just brings it all home. And I can't believe 33 years ago.
33.
I can't be that old. Cannot be that old. I'm still 17 in my head. I never grew up after that night.
Oh, it's amazing. Oh, and well, hello everyone in the chat room. So let's get started. We all know what an amazing match it was, but let's talk beforehand. Julian, so how old were you the week before?
17.
Okay, and
17 years old. I was at school. I think we were at the same school, weren't we?
Yes, I think we
if I remember
were.
rightly.
We've been chatting this week, haven't we?
Yeah. I was just about gearing up for my A levels.
Fantastic. When did you know you'd had a ticket for Anfield?
Well, I had a ticket for the original game, which was in April. From memory, it was just after. I think it was going to be the week after Hillsborough.
Yeah.
So it was actually easier to get tickets. I'm trying to recollect. I mean, how you used to get tickets back in the day. And one of my memories was going to send my mum, because I had to go to school, to queue up for tickets if you ever had to go there. So I'm pretty certain I sent my mum to Highbury when they went on sale. She used to read in the programme. This was pre-internet days. So it was just a lot different then. So you'd read in the programme when the tickets went on sale, and I would make sure that my mother went to go pick up tickets from the moment they went on sale. So that's how I got the original ticket. Still got the ticket stub. It's probably worth a fortune these days, but for me, it's absolutely priceless. So yeah, the ticket for the original game. You never got it reprinted, so it has that original date on it.
Oh yeah, I know. And these are the tickets. I've got some here. I'm not sure if you can all
wow.
see.
Wow!
But look at that. I know. I've got a few.
That's different from mine. That's different.
Well, I've got these ones as well.
Mine was all red.
So I don't know what ones we used. I've just found these. So I don't know. I know someone gave me the program because I didn't have one.
Okay.
And I've got another one here. So I don't remember much about that night, to be honest, with programs and tickets. So as I've said, Barry and I go to football together. We travel up to the Emirates together. Don't do many away games anymore, but we did when we were younger. Barry.
Yes.
What's it like going to football with me for a start? Tell everybody.
Well, you have to brace yourself, and you're either talking all the time or you're on Twitter all the time. There's no in between. Sometimes you multitask, I must admit, and sometimes you even talk a little bit of sense about Arsenal. I think in recent years, to be fair, we do agree a lot more than we used to. We used to disagree a lot about football. Nothing else. We always get on fine, but football is a passionate topic of both of ours, as you know. And I think your dad used to come with us, obviously, or we used to go with him rather. The last few years he hasn't been, so it's changed the dynamic a lot. because I used to disagree with both of you. Now I only have to disagree with you. But it's good fun because you're passionate and it's great. And it's part of the experience of going to football is going with the people and the whole before and after the match, just as important as the match sometimes. So, yeah, I do enjoy going with you, Amanda. I hope you enjoy going with me.
Oh, that's the nicest thing you've said to me.
I know.
Look at that.
I just
live on
read it
air.
all off and that's it.
I bet Karen wrote that, didn't she?
No, she doesn't. She didn't.
Yeah, no. So we've been going to football all our lives together. And the funniest thing is, to everyone in the chat, he doesn't do any social media. He hasn't got a clue about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, nothing. So when we go in the car and I'll tell him things that are happening on Twitter or, you know, not into it at all. So he's one of the few really that doesn't have any social media. But Barry goes to every home game. We used to when we were younger. Do you remember one of the away games we went to? It was Aston Villa on the train with all the Arsenal fans. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
God, that must have been in the 80s or 90s. Must be 80s. So yeah, we've been going together. So obviously we were going to go to Anfield together, except we weren't together, were we?
Well, there were 6 of us who went in 2 cars and I drove. So I was slightly older than 17. I was 24. I was about to get married that year in September. Not that's relevant, but we went in 2 cars, drove up. We'll go through the whole story, but it's a long old day and a long old story. I don't know when you got your ticket, Amanda. Did we get them the same time? Is it the same story?
I tell your story and then I'll tell mine.
Okay. Well, that year, I don't think I went to many away games. I went to all the home games, maybe a couple in London away games. But the game was on the Friday, and I think it was the Tuesday before, 3 days before, your dad rang us all up, I think, but certainly me, said, I've got a spare ticket. Are you interested in going? And I had no intention of going. So I think he had a few spare tickets. I can't remember the exact story for everyone else, but I said, yes, we're going on the Friday, and that was it. So I only knew, when did the Liverpool go? I think they played either that Monday or Tuesday, wasn't it? I can't remember. A few days beforehand, was it?
Yeah, I think it was the week before.
Was it the week before? Okay.
I think from memory, and this really is from memory, and this is one of the few pods that I've not done any research for, because I just want to see how much I can actually remember. Is my recollection was they played the cup final the week before.
Yep.
They'd played West Ham the week before the cup final. So it had been quite some time in between them playing West Ham.
They played West Ham 5 days before they played us, and they kicked them.
Yeah, okay,
didn't they hammer them 5-1 or something?
I do remember.
They'd definitely hammered them 5-1. But it's when they played the cup final. They definitely played the cup final in my mind before they played us. So they were going for the double.
They were definitely going for the double. We played our last game, which was Wimbledon at home. It was on my brother's birthday, May the 17th. Okay, so that was 9 days before the game, and I'm sure Liverpool played after that because we then knew what we had to do. So it must have been 5 or 6 days before the game, something like that. But maybe, well, anyway, by the time we got our ticket, I think we knew what we had to do. So it looked like, do you want to go to a game that it's either going to be the most fantastic day of your life, or it's going to be an absolute waste of time. So we decided to go. Well, last minute.
Can I just interrupt? Mike is trying to log on, but Mike, if you can hear me, you need to connect to your mic. They won't let me add you until you connect. Sorry, but I can't get. It says they will need to connect their mic and cam before you can add them to the stream. I really want Mike on. Mike, if someone can help you, hopefully I can get him back on as soon as he connects. So I wrote a blog about it. I don't even think you've read it, Barry. And I remember I was nearly 19. Dad only got me a ticket Monday or Tuesday before the Friday. And I remember going to my boss in London. This is a true story. And said, I need Friday off. And he said, why? I said, 'cause I'm going to Liverpool. He said, no, I'm really sorry. I can't give you the day off. And I said, well, then I'm going to resign. I was 18, living at home. I didn't need the money, didn't care. There's no way I was going to miss it after getting a ticket. And he was like, oh, you're such a stroppy teenager. I remember all this conversation. I said, it doesn't matter. Am I allowed to go? If not, I'll resign. It's totally up to you. He goes, I'll just go, get on with it. I'll never forget that. It was a West Ham fan, wasn't really into football. And I remember thinking, well, there's not much point going. It's a nice day out. There's no way on earth we're ever going to beat Liverpool. I'm sorry, that's what I felt, and I think most people felt as well. But you can't miss the day out and the night out. I'd never ever been to Anfield. I know it was the chance to see us. You never know. And I remember, Barry, because you knew what I was like as a teenager, a little bit stroppy, that when we drew, I'd never know which one it was, Wimbledon or Derby, whatever one it was, I went on Capital Gold or whatever it was, and I ranted about, we've thrown it away. And I remember winning a crate of lager for it, which I never collected because I don't really drink anyway. And I remember thinking to myself, this would be a nice day out to Liverpool. Oh, wow. Thank God I didn't turn around and say I didn't want to go. So Julian, I mean, we're all sort of, Barry's a little bit older than us, but you're roughly my age. There's only a few years between us. We're all sort of teenagery. You know, Arsenal, we'd just seen Arsenal beat Liverpool in 87. You know, we'd been, to be fair, crap, hadn't we, the early 80s. And now we've got to go and play a team that was an absolute fortress of a ground. And I've met one or two Gooners over the years that said, I thought we were going to do it. Not many. I haven't met many.
Okay. Well, you've met another one now, because I was absolutely convinced that Arsenal were going to win the league. And the reason being is that I see myself still as a disciple of George. If he said something, then I would believe it. And if you remember, he said before the game that we would keep it tight for the first half. It would be we'd go in 0-0. We wouldn't go gung ho there. We'd score a goal early in the second half, and then they'd start to panic towards the end, and we'd hit them for a goal, maybe with sort of 15, 20 minutes to go. And then his prediction, the only thing he got wrong about that night is he thought we'd actually get a third, and we'd beat them 3-0. So I was actually convinced Arsenal were going to go up there and win. I had absolutely no intention of just going there for a day out. I was going there to see, for the first time, I was born in July 71. So it was a few months after Arsenal had won the league at Spurs. So in my lifetime, I had never seen Arsenal win the league. So this was my opportunity. My father has an attitude rather like yourself, as you've just described. He was convinced that it was going to be a complete and utter waste of time. I was doing my A-levels at the time, and I remember it wasn't really advice. He was telling me what to do. He was telling me not to go to the game because it would affect the rest of my life. And I could never get my head around this. Even to today, I can't understand why the advice he was giving me was don't go to the game because you'll mess your A-levels up. I have a vague recollection that I left an A-level 45 minutes early so I could get up to Arsenal. I think the A-level finished about 12:30, and I worked out that in order to leave Gants Hill that day, I think it would take about 40 minutes to get to Highbury.
Yeah.
And the coaches went at about 1:00, and I kind of have this vague recollection I needed to get out of school by about 11:30. So I kind of left the A-level 45 minutes to an hour before it actually finished. It was a 3-hour exam. My father had offered me at the time £400, which even in today's money is not, insignificant amount. He offered me £400 for my ticket. He didn't want that ticket to sell on or to take himself. He wanted that ticket so that I wouldn't go and I wouldn't mess my life up. But again, the rational sort of thought process for myself was, you can retake your A-levels in November. This game was never, ever going to be replayed. You talk about things since. I mean, for me, it's the greatest game in the history of football. It was the greatest night in my life, bar none. It was the greatest night and day in the history of the world, full stop. For me, that was a defining moment in my life. I was convinced it was going to happen. And the only time I was actually not convinced by it was in the 76th minute when
Oh, hold
Thomas
on. We're
was
not going to
clean
get.
through.
No. Wait, that you're going
Okay,
too far. We'll get to that
we've got a
part.
lot. We've got a lot in between. But the key for me was I was convinced they were going to win. There was nothing going to stop me going to that game. I didn't care that I was doing my A levels.
So,
I
how
didn't
did
care that
you
my
get
dad was going
there,
to offer me £400.
Julian?
I got there on a coach.
At what time?
We left at 1:00. Now the next point of memory is the trip was going pretty well until the M6.
Right, now stop there. Okay, now
Okay.
stop there. Right. So, for anyone that remembers my dad coming on the show, my dad is one of these people that will leave 4 hours early for a 15-minute journey. Okay, so I remember him saying to all of us, we needed to be at his house about 9:30, 9:45. I went mental. I said, don't kick off till 8 o'clock at night. What? It's a 4-hour journey. You know what it's like when you're 18 and you've got an opinion. And I didn't want to get out of bed and whatever it was. I remember it was a very, very warm day. We all met in my dad's old house in the garden and we left about 10 to 10. If I'm right, Barry, we didn't get there till 5 o'clock, did we? 5, 6 o'clock?
It was a bank holiday weekend, the Monday, and the game was on the Friday. So I can't remember, most M1 must have been, was chock-a-block. I don't think
the
we
M6.
hit.
It was
the M6.
That's the problem.
Everywhere was chock-a-block, but I don't think we ever got above 50 miles an hour the whole journey. And it was on the M6, it was inching, wasn't it, for a long time?
Yeah.
For hours. So because we've got there left early, I think we missed the beginning of the traffic, and then he hit it a bit later, where you guys who left 4 hours later hit it a lot earlier. So I think we stopped somewhere for lunch. It was a lovely day, like you said, and it was a mixture of bank holiday traffic and lots of lorries. I just remember lots of lorry drivers leering at our Arsenal scarves or whatever it was in the car, and it's just a very long journey. I think we weren't panicking about getting it because we left so early. So it may have taken us an extra maybe 2 hours longer, but I think we were in Liverpool around 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock. We stopped for lunch. We didn't realise how bad the traffic was and how late normal supporters were leaving, because to us, leaving early was normal.
Yeah, it was. So I don't remember lunch, don't remember stopping off. I'm glad you're here because I don't remember all this. But you followed us, didn't you? We weren't even in the same car.
No.
And I remember getting to Anfield, never been there before. I didn't see a Gooner in sight, but we did see Tom, what's his name? Tom Watts from
Watts.
EastEnders. And he was the only, and I remember thinking, oh, he's an Arsenal fan. And then we saw, which the equivalent isn't now, is ITV News, would have been LWT, I suppose, in those days, or whatever it was. And they asked to interview us with Tom Watt. Do you remember that? Remember being interviewed? But Dad told me this the other day and I didn't even remember. They were going to take us on the pitch, but Liverpool then said no. So we were interviewed outside. There was us, just our little crew, Tom Watt, and loads of Scousers around us. And I remember looking around going, there's no Arsenal fans here. Oh, thanks, Nigel. I got it right. It was LWT. There's no Arsenal fans here. And obviously we don't know anything. No mobile phones. There's nothing in the 80s. Kids don't understand it. We didn't have Google Maps or anything like that. Didn't even know what Google was. So we're there, Julian, but you're not. So
I'm not.
Were you at? Because I know I've read stories. Obviously, the '89 premiere, the film, I was there because I did some interviewing, and I remember. Oh God, what's her name? The journalist who wrote the film. My brain's gone. Someone tell me her name. I can see it. Saying that she wanted to get out on the hard shoulder and run because it was just absolutely a nightmare.
It was the definition of frustration that for me, I'd built this day up. I'd been waiting for this day for my whole life, for 17 years old.
Yeah.
And we were crawling along and we all won the first coaches. And we got to the outskirts of Liverpool. probably the game was scheduled to kick off originally at 8:05, and we got to the outskirts at Liverpool probably around 7:30. So we were just about going to make it, and there was police cars on the outskirts, and that they sort of waved the coach over. And a policeman got on. He says, "What we're going to do? You're the first coach. We're going to wait for the rest of the coaches to come, and then we're going to lead you all in together." We said, "Well, we're pretty late anyway. We're just about to make kickoff." It was about half an hour till kickoff, and the policeman said, "It's fine. The game's going to be held up until you get there." And I always remember that, and we all relaxed because if you remember back, it was just after Hillsborough. There was this thing where if there was going to be a crush, if people were going to be late, they were just going to put the game back. It wasn't going to be an issue. The primary motivation was safety. I said, fine. So we all relaxed. I remember sitting on that coach for about 15, 20 minutes, and someone had a transistor radio, and we were listening, and they said the game's been put back to, I think it was only 10 minutes, maybe to 8:15.
10 minutes.
To 8:15. And the policeman was on the coach still, and someone shouted, the game's only been put back 10 minutes, we're going to be late. And the policeman was saying, no, the game's being held back until you get there. You can all relax. And the guy on the radio was saying something completely different. And everyone still believed what we were being told. Maybe about 10 minutes later, the Arsenal team started to come out, and they talked about the flowers being given out. And I remember the commentary, and it was the most surreal moment in that we'd been on a coach by this time for about 7 hours, and we were listening to, in effect, the start of the game on a coach, stuck, not moving, being told by the police that the game was being held up. Now, at this point, when we realised that we were being lied to, I wouldn't say there was a riot, but it was getting very, very volatile on that coach, to the extent that there was going to be trouble. The policeman came on the radio to his supervisor, and they actually allowed us and whatever coaches were there at that time to go forward, and then the coaches behind us they didn't make us wait. Now we got to the ground, and we all knew, because we listened to the beginning of the game on the radio, and we all knew we were missing the game. And the next recollection I have was, as we got off the coach, the police said, "Don't run, walk in an orderly fashion as you go into the ground for safety. I remember the guy shouting, 'Remember Hillsborough, remember Hillsborough,' and everyone just ran, including myself. It was just, there was no stopping us. We just ran. I just ran. I was 17 years old. I ran. I think we missed 10, 15 minutes of the game. As I came in, it was a few minutes after that, it was the bold header off the line. So I think that was about 10, 15 minutes from the beginning.
Because I do it stage by stage. So we're sitting in our seats, and I'm looking round, going to my dad, because I sat with my dad, not with Barry. I'm going, where is everyone? There's like no one here. I mean, it wasn't deserted, but it wasn't far off. But people were, as I was saying it, people then started to come in. Not thousands, though. And I kept thinking to myself, and my dad looked at me and he went, yeah, and that's why we left at 10 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
And I went like this. I hold my hands up, because I could not have sat on the M6. I would have got out and probably ran. Now, the person who I was talking about was Amy Lawrence. Thank you, everyone in there.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes, yeah. Amy Lawrence, who wrote the 89 film with Dixon and everyone. And Lee Dixon and Alan Smith were... Alan was going to come on tonight, but he's away. Kevin's doing work for Nottingham Forest tonight, and Lee's away. So unfortunately, they were going to come on and say hello. Anyway, so going back to that game, in my head, Julian, and I keep saying this, and it's really strange, that I think I sat direct behind the goal. But when you look on telly, we weren't behind the goal. We were to the left of it, or the right, whatever way you want to look at it.
I think the seats were behind the goal, but the standing was, if you're facing...
No, I was sitting. But what I'm saying is, Julian, in my head, the net was right in front of me. But when you look on TV, It's not. We're not behind the goal. We're to the side of it. Anyway, I had a lot of friends that were on the bend bit where they were standing. There's an iconic picture actually of one of my friends, a game that was due on tonight, but is away. You see him standing when we win. But anyway, going back to that. So you get to the match, right? You're all like frazzled. I'd say famished, but people won't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you
Well,
two
I know what
will.
you're talking about. Yeah.
You're all famished. We're all frazzled. We're not. We've been there hours. We're just
I'm
strolled
not,
into
I'm not
the
frazzled
ground.
because I was just so enthusiastic to be in. I was still on a high just getting there.
You missed one of the best bits, Julian, when the players
Which bit was
handed out
that?
flowers before the game.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't there.
That
I said missed the beginning of the game.
I got flowers because of the bloke in front of me, and I'm to this day, I left them under my seat because what does an 18-year-old want with flowers? If only I'd have brought them back and got them pressed, but I didn't. But anyway, so now we get into the game, and surprisingly, it's 0-0. So we're actually still got a chance of the game. Now, Barry.
Yes.
How long before half time was it? I don't remember.
Was what?
Well, hold on. It was 0-0 before half time, wasn't it? Because
0-0
George
half
Graham
time.
always said, if we can get to hit, this was his plan. It was his whole plan. He said it, that it was nil. If we can get to 0-0 to half time, then we've got
It was quite a tight game, really. There weren't that many chances. It was a good game, very good game, but there actually wasn't many chances. And Liverpool had a few long shots, I would say, that Lukic dealt with quite well. We had the one chance from a set piece, a bold header that was pretty close, actually. And that was about it. Goal mouth action. So I think that was down to George. His famous back four held them at bay.
Yeah, that's it. Back five that night.
Back 11, I think, in the first half. But yeah, no, the game was a tight game. It was one. I think the first half, especially, every pass seemed important, but they didn't seem to get anywhere. Every pass was under pressure, and if you look back, you'll probably remember every pass if you look at it again. The game. Liverpool were facing the Arsenal fans in the first half, so every time they came forward, it was very tense, obviously. And yes, Manda, we were sitting somewhere behind the goal. I'm convinced. I don't know if it was a different.
Well.
I don't know if it was a whole block or a few, but I was the furthest. So I was the nearest Arsenal supporter to the goal. So I was at the end. I think you were a few seats to my left, more in the middle, but it was definitely goal in front of us. Yeah, definitely the goal in front of us.
But if you, sorry, 1 second. So GG Gooners says, keep it tight and don't concede in the first half. We were bloody good at it. Tony Adams. That's exactly what George and Tony, and that was the plan.
And we knew that was the plan as well. So we were sort of we weren't expecting lots of goals. We probably were expecting 0-0 overall, quite frankly, or them to score one. Obviously, what the worst thing would have been if they'd have scored first. They didn't lose many games. They were blooming good team. People forget that. They, like you say, Julian, they were going for the double. The whole world wanted them to win. It was 6 weeks after Hillsborough. The game was postponed, like you said. They just won the cup. Someone points out on the 23rd. The 20th. They played West Ham on the 23rd. This was the 26th. So we also thought they could be tiring towards the end of the second half because they played a couple of big games. The pressure was on them, quite frankly, and the pressure was off us. I mean, although, Julian, you went with anticipation, you thought we were going to win. I think we were quite relaxed, Amanda, considering it was such a big game. We had nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
We had everything to win and nothing to lose. And
it was that moment where you go, well, let's just go and see, the champions. Liverpool are a phenomenal side. Never been to Anfield. It was quite an iconic stadium. Obviously, Hillsborough, we paid our respects. And it was, you can't miss a league title decider for your club. So we were one of the lucky ones. And Barry, what was funny, when I joined Twitter about, 10, 12 years ago, I remember people calling me a liar for being there because apparently 2.4 million people went or something. I didn't know all this. I wasn't into Twitter for many years. It was just I joined it because there's a lot of banter with Arsenal fans. And I used to sit there and go, what do you mean I'm lying? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't need to lie.
You
I
know
was
the truth.
there. Exactly.
I know the truth.
And
Yeah,
eventually
it's-
over time, I think people got so bored of me saying it and writing my blog that they just gave up, and now everyone knows I was there because it's quite a standing
Yeah.
joke on the Always
And now
Arsenal
you've earned
show.
a living out of that one game, haven't you? Man?
Yeah.
No, this is the first
Yeah.
show I've ever done on it, like on my own channel. It's so weird.
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
there's actually a lot of people that have lied about it. I was at university with a boy that always told me that he was there. And I used to question him on it because I didn't think anyone would lie about it. And as the years went on, I was there sort of 3 years. I kind of realised because I remember asking. He said, when Arsenal were attacking at the end, what was your view? And he said, I couldn't really see it properly because it was up the other end. And I said, no, it wasn't. It was, it was at our end. And then I saw the look in his face. He goes, oh no, I was on the Cop. So how'd you get tickets on the Cop then? And at that point, he kind of the story all unfolded. I wasn't really there, but I felt like I should have been.
No,
I think a lot of people who watched that game felt like they were there, even if they weren't there.
Maybe.
It was
But
such
do you know
moment.
It's funny. I just tweeted, not that you'd see Barry, but I just tweeted that every May the 26th, I always watch Fever Pitch. Every year I've always done it. Just sit and watch the film today. And I still love it, and it's still amazing, and it's still so funny and so true to life. But even if you weren't there, I would have loved to have been at Highbury when we were travelling home. But we're jumping a bit. Right. So we get to 50 minutes. And it's still 0-0. And I think a lot of us then were starting to think, oh, okay, that's not bad from the Arsenal 0-0. There's a possibility, but we got a score. And then we get a free kick, don't we, Barry?
Well, I think up to that point, I don't think we'd even crossed the halfway line very much in that second half. It was only 9 minutes in, but I can't remember us going forward much or being a threat. The free kick, I think, was Dear Rocky who got the free kick from memory. He won the free kick. And yes, everyone from a set piece, suddenly everyone was in the box, or a lot of people in the box right in front of us. And the Arsenal fans, the noise went up a bit. And, well, we know what happened. But, yeah, that was a moment and a half because it suddenly felt on. It suddenly felt on. And I think that was the first moment I really felt tense because we had something to lose now. We had something to go for. We were close.
I felt more tense after because they surrounded the ref.
Yes.
And I'm very friendly with Alan Smith. And every time I see him, it is a bit of a standing joke between me and him. I go, you did touch it, didn't you? You did touch it. We have this standing little joke together. But he did touch it. And the coaches of Liverpool saw that he touched it on a replay on the television.
We didn't know why they were surrounding the ref. And I can't even remember if we were looking at that because those days, the ref never changed their mind. They may have gone to talk to the linesman now and then, but very rarely. But that was a long pause once we did realise there was a so-called VAR moment there 33 years in advance.
I wonder what VAR would have done because it's hard to see. Although he's got a bit of mud on his face, it's hard to see.
There's no clear and obvious error.
Yeah.
No.
It would have stood.
Yeah. The recollection I had of that particular incident, and I felt the Liverpool players were cheating because if you listen to the interviews from years later and they're asked, what were you complaining about? They weren't complaining about anything. They just wanted something to complain about to try and manipulate the referee. I actually not sure whether it was it was an indirect free kick. I think it was a direct free kick. So that even if it hadn't touched, if it had gone straight in, it wasn't offside. He definitely touched it anyway.
He had to touch it.
He definitely touched it. There's a mark on his face where it actually hit him. You can see it was a goal, but the Liverpool players were cheating. They were using techniques
DG
to
Gooner
try.
agrees with you, Julian. Spot on, Julian. They were bullying the ref.
Yeah, they were trying to bully the ref. And what I blame them for, and what I'm a little bit upset even to this day about, is that in exactly the same way that you described, Barry, the VAR moment, it took the passion and the joy out of that moment. So one thing I remember is that I saw straight away that they were surrounding the referee, and the atmosphere changed. We weren't sure whether that goal was given because we didn't have replays. We didn't have iPhones that we could watch it again or on the big screens. It was one moment in time that was never going to be replayed for us while we're at the ground. So for all we knew, it could have been offside. That goal was going to be ruled out. And once the Liverpool players surrounded the referee, and they did a good act, because the way that they surrounded him, it looked absolute that they had something to complain about.
I think though, at the
time, took the joy away from that moment for me.
They often bullied. I won't say bullied, but they tried to put pressure on the ref. So even if they didn't get decisions, then they've got a later decision. So I think they were the masters.
They were the masters. They were but they absolutely weren't looking for the future. They were looking to get that decision overturned.
Even if they genuinely didn't believe that decision would be overturned, they still played the game.
And they admitted in interviews after they had no justification. They knew that was a legitimate goal. So, yes, I've got a lot of positive memories of that night from the Liverpool team and the Liverpool supporters. But that moment from Liverpool players, for me, was cheating. And it was an attempt to manipulate the result in an unfair way.
I think, though, to be a little bit fair to them, and no one knew whether he touched it or not.
Yeah.
And they couldn't tell if he did or didn't. So I don't see how they could be so adamant he didn't, or that he did, quite frankly. I mean, only one person knows. Only one person.
And he says he did.
And he said he did.
He's got the mark on his face.
He's honest man.
You watch the replays, he touched it. It was there's no doubt in my mind. The referee asked the linesman, is there any reason why you would disallow that goal? The linesman said no. And thankfully, they got it right. And those two, we thank them for doing their job properly, and they weren't manipulated by Liverpool players attempting to cheat, because that's what it was.
Julian, I'm just going to read you both something that's just been sent to me. It said, Liverpool's players protested, claiming Smith had not made contact, and thus the goal should have been disallowed, coming directly from an indirect free kick, or that there had been a push by O'Leary. After consulting his linesman, the referee, David Hutchinson, awarded the goal. After the match, he recalled none of the Liverpool players knew why they had protested, and TV replays confirmed that Smith made contact. That's from Carl. So, thank you, Carl.
Yeah. So thank Carl. The Liverpool players tried to cheat. Liverpool players tried to cheat. They didn't get away with it. It's that's the only negative thing I would say about Liverpool players on that night. Oh, apart from we'll come to the end, but obviously we'll do things in sequence. There's one other thing, but we'll go on to that.
One other thing, right? So. We go 1-0 up, and then all of a sudden, this is when you start to plutz, and everyone knows what plutz means, but it means stress, because now game on. So for the people like me and Barry, or anyone that's hold on, we might have Mike. Let's have a look. I can add Mike. Mike, can you hear us? Oh,
been on
finally!
The M6, Mike.
Mike's been on the M6.
Yeah, me and technology don't go hand in hand.
Right, stay there, don't move. Welcome to the show. We've wanted you on for the last 40 minutes. Mike, we're up to gone 1-0. Okay. We're all in this, because this is where we are in the show. We're all up the stage. We're all in, sitting there going, oh my God, it's 1-0. We only need one more goal, and we don't need any goals from Liverpool. So give us your recollection of around the 1-0.
Yeah. So what happened was, because I'd rather start from the beginning, really. Sorry if I've messed your running order up. Is that we drove up the M6, got diverted all over the place because the traffic was bad.
Yeah.
And we eventually got to the sort of locality of Anfield, just dumped the car wherever I could. Steve Bold hit the bar as we were waiting to get in the turnstile. This is me and my 6-year-old son at the time.
Oh.
So we went right down to the front, because him being little and me not being a lot bigger. And the copper, they did what they wouldn't do nowadays. And he said, I'll put your lad over here. So he put him the pitch side of the wall.
Oh, wow.
and so he had a view from there, and obviously to sort of jump in when it got to 1-0, I'm thinking, oh, it's not going to happen. We're going to be so near but so far away, and just didn't think that it could possibly happen for us, and then to sort of jump ahead when the final whistle went, the police.
Hold on, no. We're gonna stop there, Mike. We've got the most important moment of the night to discuss. But I'm glad I'm glad you covered it in just a minute or so. It's nice. Welcome to the show. Thanks for trying to log in for the last 40 minutes. Stay there, don't move. Okay, you're fine. So we're all behind the goal. We're all 1-0 up. We're all starting to go, what the hell? Okay. And then I really felt, didn't you all feel the pressure started?
Absolutely.
Because we had the chance. It was now. Now we're 1-0 up. We've only got to get one goal and keep it.
But the pressure started because Liverpool felt the pressure as well. The players and the fans, you feel it around the ground. As up as we had gone, they had gone down. So it was very finely tuned at that point, very finely tuned. And they were... I think the intensity of the match grew. The tackles got stronger. The players were running faster. The ball was moving faster. There was a lot happening, I think, on the pitch, and you could sense everything. You could sense the atmosphere. You could sense what if could happen, and that was in fact, it was only half an hour or so till the end, but that was a long gap between the first goal and later. So it was cranked up big time.
So as you know, Julian, Mickey Thomas goes through and misses. Now, just before you say anything, at that moment, I looked at my dad and I said, can we leave? I've heard all about this traffic. Can we just leave? And my dad looked at me, no words of a lie, and said, we don't leave early. We don't leave games early, and we're not leaving early tonight. And I went, oh, for God's sake, well, we're not going to get another goal, are we? And he's missed. And I remember interviewing him and saying, why could you have not just scored that goal? And we could have enjoyed it, But when he missed, what was your recollection of that moment?
Because I'd listened to what George had said, and he didn't specify exactly when we were going to score the second goal. And he said that we'd score early in the second half and we would score a second towards the end, and then probably, I think he used the words, probably score a third right at the end. So for me, suddenly, as I said, I was convinced if George said it was going to happen. So when Michael Thomas missed it, I think it was the 76th minute, that kind of blew me away. And it was probably the worst moment in my life. I mean, I have had a rather fortunate life at 50 years old. I've had many high moments and not too many low. But from recollection, that 76th minute at Anfield was probably one of my lowest points, because suddenly I thought, George maybe doesn't know that the moment that was supposed to be that he'd predicted, Michael Thomas hadn't quite followed the script. And from being totally convinced, from that 76th minute onwards, I had doubts and I thought the chance had gone. So I was on a real low from the 76th minute onwards.
Right, okay.
I didn't feel that, because that gave us encouragement. We actually opened up such a good team, right? And it was a good chance and a proper finish. He is a good finisher. He was a good finisher. That actually gave us encouragement. I think the volume in the Arsenal end went up after that, not down.
Well, for me, and
I know
this
what you're saying,
is that I know it was the 76th minute, but and we'll come on to the end, obviously, in the proper sequence of events. But one thing I'd like to say is, it wasn't like it is today. You didn't quite know what minute it was in.
No.
There was no scoreboard saying how long had gone. There was nothing to indicate how much injury time. What you had to do, and I forgot to do this, if you want to know how long had gone, you'd have to look at your watch at the moment that the game kicked off.
Yeah.
And then remember what time on your watch it was, and then add on where we were at. So you had to do some calculations yourself. I didn't do that at the beginning of the second half. So I didn't quite know where we were in the game. I just knew it was towards the end, and I'd remembered that George had said we would score towards the end. So when he didn't score, I thought that was what George was talking about, and it just wasn't going to happen.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I'll come to Mike in a second, but Barry and I never needed to do any of that because my dad did it. He used to have a stopwatch on. He used to say, right, I go, how long, Dad? He'll go 4 minutes, 3 minutes. I never knew either. Mike, so we're 1-0 up, okay? Your little son's over the pitch side. Did you believe that we had a chance?
No, not really. You just, as I say, you just think we're so near but so far away. And you just see so many games sort of like that over the years, and you just think, oh, it's never going to come. So, you just fingers crossed. But like the other lads, I wasn't really aware how long was left in the game to the nth minute. I just knew that there was a quarter of an hour left, roughly, but it could have been 12 or 18. I wasn't sort of entirely sure because technology just wasn't the same in those days.
No.
Remember if there was a clock inside Anfield, so it was just a question of looking at your own watch. So you're just praying and praying and praying, and as you say, when Mickey Thomas missed that first chance, you thought, oh well, that was a big moment and it's gone. So you're thinking, oh, the chances of us getting anything are getting less by the minute, so to speak.
Well, see, think about it now. It's 9:45. I'm convinced we scored at 9:51. But you think
it was 10:02.
You're saying 10:02, but does anyone know the exact time
it kicked off at 8:15. Half time. The second half must have kicked off around about 9:15.
Julian's right then. I thought it was 10 to 10.
No, later than 10 to 10. Yeah, Julian's right.
It was 2 minutes past 10.
Well, the funny thing about this is it's 9:45. Well, it's 10 to 10 nearly now, right? 33 years ago now, we were all at Anfield, right? That's factual. I still think it's around 10 to 10.
This is the moment Mickey Thomas missed.
This is when he missed. I'm actually getting excited. I'm like this on Fever Pitch. And when you watch the film 89, when they do the stills, oh my God. I remember watching my mum who can't stand football when she was even stressed. And so we're all sitting there. There's a lot I don't remember, if I'm honest. I just remember going to my dad, can we leave? Don't want to sit in traffic. He told me where to go. Thank God that was the most he told me where to go moment in my life. Because
that's what Dad's for.
Yeah, exactly. That's what dads are for.
Man, if we'd have gone 10 minutes before the end of every Arsenal game, you'd have missed everything.
Everything. Because then it all starts to erupt. So obviously,
I don't mean that game. I mean the whole history of Arsenal. Cup finals, last-minute winners. You'd have missed everything.
No, it was only because of the everyone sitting in traffic for 8 hours. I didn't think we were going to win. I didn't want to see Liverpool lift the trophy. We'd come so close. He'd missed. And as you know, my dad's saying is if you don't take your chances, you don't win games, which he didn't say to me that night. He just says it every time now. And now we're like, I don't know, let's just say it's 5 minutes to go. And it's panic stations. I feel it's panic stations from Liverpool. Because as we know, and I don't think one Liverpool fan who's ever met John Barnes has not asked him that question of why he didn't go to the corner flag. Right. I often say it to my Liverpool friends who weren't Liverpool friends then, but have been over the years now. You must want to ask John Barnes, because I was on a podcast once with Stevie Nicol, and I said to Stevie Nicol, why didn't you just take Michael Thomas out? And he said to me, it happened too fast. It happened too fast.
Couldn't get close enough to him. That's why.
He said it was too fast. It was too quick. So we'll have to go up to that moment now because we're all. I'm getting very excited. Barry, you take us from Lukic. Julian, you do. Mike, you do from the midfield, and Julian, you do from Thomas.
The thing is, right, let's be honest, we only remember it from the TV now, because at the game...
No,
Hold on. At the game, what I remember, I do remember Richardson passing it back to... Kevin Richardson passing it back to John Lukic. And because we thought the game was over and they had possession right down the other end towards the corner. And it did happen quickly. So, yeah, Lukic should have lumped it forward, but he didn't. He threw it to Lee Dixon, who apparently did not want the ball.
That's what I was just about to say, Gum.
And Lee Dixon had the ball. So is that my bit over, or shall I talk it all through?
No, we're going to Mike now. So Lee Dixon, go on. He goes to the midfield.
Yeah, and then he just hits the ball through the gap in midfield for Mickey Thomas running into space. And
No.
it was so easy.
Didn't Smith have something to do with it? Mike, didn't it hit Alan Smith? Didn't he pass it on?
Yeah, can't remember, to be honest.
No, I'm sort of... Right, Julian, now you take it on to the next part, which is my
well, I have to say, I just want to recap where we're up to at this point. Now, I'm not a religious person, but they always say at times of need, you may turn to God. And two things I remember before we scored was the Arsenal fans were singing "Attack, attack, attack," and I remember that. And I turned to the guy next to me, and I said, "How long to go?" And he said, "It's all over."
Yeah.
And walked towards the exit. I don't know what to this day whether he left. I didn't know the guy. I said, "How long to go?" He said, "It's all over." And I remember Lukic had the ball, and at that point, I prayed to God for Arsenal to score. I just looked up at the heavens. Please, God, let Arsenal score. Please, God, let Arsenal score. So, getting on to the point, and obviously, I had the commentary from that night by Brian Moore. For me, I think I probably know it verbatim, those lines, as Arsenal come streaming forward in what surely there will be their last attack. A good ball by Dixon finds Smith. Smith through to Thomas. Thomas charging through the midfield. It's up for grabs now. One thing I asked a Liverpool fan today, so I'm at a conference at the moment, and I had a meeting, and pretty much every meeting I talk about football. And I had a meeting with a Liverpool fan who was also at that game. And I asked him a question that I've actually asked a few of the players and other people that were at the game. My recollection, just like in the film, was that time went in slow motion. When he was clean through. So if we sort of fast forward,
not as slow as the film, not as slow as 89.
Well, it's not as slow as the film, but I remember it was silent. It was almost like disbelief. He was clean through, and he hit the ball, and it seemed like an age for it to actually hit the back of the net. But when it hit the back of the net, my recollection, I don't know whether time has distorted what actually happened, but I remember the ground still being deathly silent for what seemed like a few seconds. And even at the Arsenal end, is that I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. And maybe a few seconds later, maybe it was a millisecond, it absolutely erupted at the Arsenal end. Erupted. But there was that moment where it seemed to, the world seemed to slow down, and it seemed to pause for those few seconds. And then it erupted, and the reality of what we'd just seen, which, again, I'll reiterate, the greatest moment in history, not just the greatest moment the greatest game in football, happened, and we had the privilege of actually being there. And at that moment, again, I go back, I'm not a religious person, but I was convinced not only that there was a God, but God was an Arsenal fan.
God was a Gooner.
You know what? In that
God was a Gooner.
That moment, that seemed to take ages. If you hear Mickey Thomas talk, he says he was waiting for Bruce Grobbelaar to make a decision before he made a decision.
Wow.
So that split second did feel like a long time. It was like he was playing poker, wanted to see the other guy's hand before he made his move.
And Barry had already missed as well. So
I know.
I thought it was going to be the same.
But he had a big space open up, and they were all converging on him, and he did have a half a second of time, which is a long time, or whatever it is in that moment. But yeah, it was silence there, and it was a period of disbelief when the ball hit the net. It can't possibly have happened in front of
that was it.
But where I was, so Mike, when the ball hit the net and we were all going mental, where was your son?
Well, he was still the other side of the wall, obviously. and just jumping up and down like a loony. But like Julian, I have so many moments when I'm watching Arsenal and I think to myself, please God, just do one thing for me in my life. Just do this one thing. And there's been so many games where I've asked him, he must think, well, this, you've only asked me for one chance and you've asked me about 200 times.
Yeah.
On that night, as you say, he delivered. So
yeah, he did deliver. I actually went to the synagogue for the whole summer. After that, I didn't sleep that night. I didn't get back home till about 5-6 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep even when I got home. I was like, so I went straight to synagogue. The rabbi hadn't seen me since my bar mitzvah, and when I told him the reason why I was there, he did what most religious people would do and sort of saw the opportunity to sucker me in. For the whole summer, I went to the synagogue to thank Arsenal, to thank God for Arsenal that they won the league. I didn't lose my faith until the beginning of the next season when they lost 4-1 away to Man United.
Oh,
and
I
thought
was
God
there
had,
for that.
I thought God had kind of turned his back on Arsenal. It wasn't until I read Tony Adams' autobiography that I realised it was more to do with Tony Adams and a few of the Arsenal players going out on a bender the night before the Man United game than God turning his back on Arsenal. But
well, he didn't turn his back on us that night, did he? And
no, he didn't. He didn't.
Now,
if there was a God that night, he's definitely a Gooner.
So I remember being lifted up by the bloke in front of me, being kissed, being thrown, and then obviously we have to wait until the final whistle. And now, knowing the Arsenal, there's always a chance that they could score. But I think we were all so over the place celebrating and trying to calm down. I don't even remember from when Mickey scored to the final whistle how long that was. I know someone in the chat room will tell me. Was it 1 minute only?
No,
but that was
1 minute
McMahon
before
doing
the goal,
that,
wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think it was literally maybe a minute, but I'm sure I'll get loads.
It was 90 seconds.
Yeah, but my God, did that
felt
feel
like 90 minutes?
Didn't it, Mike? Oh my God, didn't it just? And also, it was just so from going there and expecting nothing. I know you didn't, Julian, but most of us did. Go there to expect nothing to this, and all you can think of was, and I can't swear, oh my effing God, we are going to win the league. I'm here and I'm seeing us beat Liverpool and win the league. I couldn't even cope. And I was only 18 and a half at the time, nearly 19, whatever. And I remember looking at my dad going, thank God you didn't leave. Thank God you didn't listen to me, because that would have been my story. I left. That would have been it. I don't think I could have ever discussed it again. But
that time though, Amanda, that I think a lot of Arsenal fans had tears in their eyes during the game. I mean, it was a surreal time waiting for the final whistle.
Yeah.
Although it was only 90 seconds, probably it took 45 seconds to kick off. I don't know what it was, but and obviously the players had to get their heads straight. But suddenly realised, as you said, man, suddenly realised you had it in your hand and you just got to see out 45 seconds against the world.
No, it wasn't. I've just been told it's 38 seconds were played after the ball was kicked off before the final whistle.
That's what I'm saying.
But it was 90 seconds after the goal.
It took 45 seconds to kick off, or 50 seconds to kick off.
Oh, right. It was only 38 seconds.
Yeah, but we still had to wait.
Yeah, I know. It was amazing.
And in that time, Liverpool had an attack.
Yes. Yeah, well, we would do, wouldn't it, against the Arsenal? This is just so Arsenal. So I don't even know where to begin. Mike, was you front row then because your son was over pitch side?
Yeah, I was right down. Obviously, I didn't want to let him out of my sight, so I'm standing just sort of the crowd side of the wall, so I can sort of put my hands on his shoulders and keep him there, type of thing. So so I was down the very, very front.
Was you going mental?
Oh yeah.
Everyone was, wasn't it? Everyone.
Yeah, I mean,
were you behind the goal, Mike, or were you to the side?
No, behind just to the left of the goal. Where the main body were. But I mean, at that time, we so often lost at Anfield. You know, for us to just win at Anfield would have been sort of something in itself. But to do it when we had to, and to do it by the score that we had to do, was just like an impossible dream, wasn't it? Really, you know, because we were just so used to getting beat at Anfield.
And I remember, I mean, obviously, everyone knows that I'm friends with Kevin Campbell, and we often talk about this. George had no doubt that we were going to win. I mean, he was calm. Did you see him when the final whistle went, everyone was going mental? He's trying to calm people down.
Yeah.
I'll never forget seeing that, obviously, when we got back. So I don't remember the rest. I remember going on the M1 the wrong way and turning round. I remember a few things. I remember coming into Stanley Park and the Evertonian policeman talking or hugging my dad, the Everton fans. Lee Dixon's story's the best when he went in a chip shop because he stayed up north and the Evertonians were all on him because obviously it'd be like if Spurs lost, we would be the same, wouldn't we? It's the same sort of feeling. It was just the most, I always have to say it's the best footballing night of my life. Can't be the best night of my life because I've got a son. And I always say that it's the best footballing night of my life, will never be beaten. Never, unless we beat Tottenham in the Champions League final in the last seconds. I can't see that night being beaten.
I don't think even that would surpass that particular night because the difference was, you know, what you just described would be a final. Now, what we had that night was a league season, a whole league season, and they've talked about it being similar to the Man City QPR game, which I think absolutely diminishes the importance and the achievement of what Arsenal had that night, because it was a whole league season into one moment. It was the two top teams competing for the league, and also what Liverpool were at that time. They were the greatest team in the world. They'd been dominant in the 70s, the 80s.
So why did you think we were going to beat them, Julian? I mean,
because
why?
George
No one
said
did.
so. Because George said we would. And if George said it, it was true.
You know what's weird, right, Jen? You were 17 then, right? But George Graham was in his prime, but he was only in his mid-40s. Yeah. He was playing for us in the early 70s, and this is 89. Yeah. So he was was he 45, 46? And we thought he was 50. He was 50.
Yeah, he was 50 in 95. So
this
yeah,
is 6 years earlier.
Yeah.
Mike, how old were you?
44.
But 33 years ago, I'd have been 40.
So same for you, that sort of age of what a wonderful experience, because obviously you've experienced the double, didn't you, in 71?
Yeah. On the pitch at White Hart Lane.
Yeah, and so was my dad. And that's what was fantastic about this, was he could celebrate it with me. And my brother was sitting with Barry. Sorry there. Yeah. We were all there at different seats. We just couldn't care less where we sat as long as we were there. So we've won. Not only have we beaten Liverpool, it's only Arsenal to do it in the last seconds. We've won the league on Merseyside, as the song goes. We're all traipsing home. Apparently, Barry tells me that we stopped off at a petrol station and Arsenal fans were doing a conga. I don't remember this. But what I do remember, and I'm going to ask you your memories, is, Barry, you got stopped by the police, and you can tell us about that in a moment. I was in the other car, and we got next to the coach on the M25, and I'll never forget Nigel Winterburn jumping up and down with the cup. That is definitely something I remember. He was going mental. They pulled off for Southgate, and we carried on to Essex on the M25. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to be able to sleep in a million years. And the whole weekend then, I went with Barry's brother, funny enough, to Highbury. I don't know if he was with us, Barry. I can't remember, but Andrew was. We went the whole weekend to Highbury. It was the most amazing weekend. So, Mike, let's come to you. So, who did you travel up with?
Just me and my son, as I say, age 6. I had to wait for him to come out of school at 3 o'clock, which was not giving myself too much time. It's usually about a 3.5 hour drive to Anfield anyway. So with all the problem, you didn't have all the apps that you now got telling you where all the traffic jams were. You just had to use intuition, and I'm just jumping off at various places and getting back on, just getting more and more frustrated all the time. As I say, when the whistle went and the police then came up to me and said, "Do you want to come over the wall with your son?" So I went pitch side as well, and all the fans around me are saying, "Get me a piece of the pitch, get me a piece of the pitch." And I did for the first couple, but then I was aware that there was about 200 people asking me, and the police were starting to give me a nasty look, because half of the Anfield pitch would have been in my pocket or being passed over the wall. But then it got even better for my son, because he was, if you look at videos of the time that were on I think it was on the ITN news, he was being held up. John Lukic came over and gave him the trophy and held him up to the crowd with the trophy in his arms, and a lot of the other players did as well. So it just couldn't have got much better than that, really, for him. And even though he was only 6, he's now nearly 40 himself.
Wow.
He's still got strong memories of it. And people that know me and knew me at that time will know that what I'm saying is absolutely true. But you've got, you hear the stories about, there was 250,000 Arsenal fans there that night, because everybody reckons they were there. But people that know me know that I was, because they saw me on the TV. So, but
you've never had to prove it, unlike me, with all my ticket stubs and my programs. The funny thing is, Mike, I don't care if people think I'm a liar. I'm not bothered what other people think. But
no, exactly. I know.
I don't really care.
That's all
I wouldn't be able to lie. I'm not that sort of person anyway. If I wasn't there, I wasn't at Parma. I could have said I've been to every cup final since the 80s, but I wasn't at Parma, so I wasn't there. I wasn't there. Julian, so did you get back on the coach, or did you stay in Liverpool?
No, so weirdly enough, Mike, I must have been really close to you, because when they scored the goal, I found myself right at the front of the standing area, because back then the crowd would surge, and somehow I ended up at the front. And when the final whistle came, a steward came running up to me. I was only small then, 17, and the steward came up to me and said, "You need to get on the pitch, because you're in trouble," because I was getting sort of crushed at the front. I wasn't getting that crushed, but he said, "Come on the pitch," and he pulled me. Yeah, and he pulled me over. And I remember seeing your son. That's really bizarre that I saw this young boy being held up, and I kind of wanted to get held up, and I ran towards the players, and a policeman sort of grabbed me back. He goes, "No, we're going to throw you out." I said, "Please don't throw me out." He said, "All right, you can go back over," and he sort of helped me back over, but into the seats, and I jumped up and down, the seat, and the seat broke. Yeah. And because I was late in, I never got a program, so I thought, okay, I'll have the seat as a souvenir. And this is the story of a middle-aged, sort of middle-class Jewish hooligan who turns back home on the Saturday with a seat from Anfield. On the Monday, my mother was so embarrassed that she phoned Liverpool and said, "My son has stolen your seat. Can I have your address so
what
that
you're
I
sitting
can
on
send,
at the moment,
so that I can send the seat back to you?" And the woman at the other end laughed. She goes, "Well, as it happens, he's helped us out, because we were changing those seats anyway, so it saved us ripping it out ourselves."
Do you want another 500?
I still have that. I still have that seat, and if I'd known, if I'd done this stream from home, I would have worn the shirt from that night that still just about fits me, and I would have showed you the seat from that night. It wasn't my seat that I was sitting on, because I was in the stand. I was standing, but I still have the seat, which for me is a tangible piece of history.
That's
so I didn't stay.
Story.
Yeah, I didn't stay at Liverpool. We got back on the coach. I remember the atmosphere outside. The Liverpool fans were incredible. Yeah. There was girls outside kissing us. There was guys shaking our hands. My recollection of the journey back was being really thirsty, because we'd been screaming the whole game, and this was before you had shops that opened after 6 o'clock. So we couldn't get a drink. We got back on the coach. I don't remember much about the coach journey back, but one thing I do remember, we must have got back to Highbury about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And when you look at Fever Pitch and the party that was at Highbury, that happened. 2-3 o'clock in the morning, there were still thousands of people on the streets. Yeah. They were cheering and clapping the coaches. We stayed outside Highbury for a good hour or so, and that's why I didn't get back to Gants Hill until about 5-6 o'clock in the morning. So that was my recollection. I know it didn't take us as long to get back as it
No.
did to get there. But yeah,
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like, and obviously it was a Friday night, so it fell on the weekend, and literally Barry's brother came around, drove us to Highbury. We was around the pubs. We just were celebrating. It was madness, absolute madness. And then we had was it that year that we had the parade at Islington Town Hall?
It was on the Sunday.
Was it the Sunday? Yes, I'm saying. So I spent the whole weekend in Highbury. It was incredible. Guys, it's been over an hour and 10 minutes. You've been incredible. People in the chat room, if you've got any quick questions or you want to tell us your stories, I'll put it up. But we are going to have to go soon. I could do another hour at least, but we can't.
What about May 26th, 2023?
Yeah, well, every year I want to do something like this and get people on, because everyone's stories, apart from me and you, Barry, are very different. And I love hearing. I didn't know that about you and your son, Mike. Julian, I didn't know you were stuck and then you nicked a seat, which I think is fantastic. I'd love to have had my seat that night. I'd love to have had the flowers. Oh, put them under the seat.
Man, you forgot to say we did stop at a service station and we met George Graham's son. I don't think you remember. Yeah, well, we did. If your dad said it was George Graham's son, it was George Graham's son, right? So, yeah,
absolutely. This has just been incredible, and we've scored. By the way, I didn't see the time. It's 10:10, so we're all going mental now. Anyway, 33 years ago, and we all love the Arsenal. As you know, it is the end of the season. Unfortunately, we didn't get fourth. We have got fifth. We're back in Europa League. Europa League football, thank God. We've got European football. Next week, I'm doing an end of season awards with some guests that have been on the show since I started this in January. They're going to be fun awards, not the boring old awards. People in the chat room, you've been incredible. My guests, you have been incredible. Have you enjoyed it, Barry?
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, as long as I don't have to listen to it again, it's good.
You don't have to listen to it again. I'm going to tell your brother about it, though. He'd be impressed. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, Barry. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Julian, you're a star. Thank you for doing this from Vegas.
Thank you.
Absolutely loved it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Always. I always enjoy talking about that night. I always enjoy talking full stop. But to talk about Arsenal is a passion of mine, as you know. But to talk about Anfield '89, again, I know it sounds dramatic, but it was the greatest moment of my life, bar none. The only criticism I have had of my wedding speech is that I spent 80% of it talking about that particular night and only 20% talking about my future ex-wife, which is probably one of the reasons she became my future ex-wife.
My dad will love you, Julian. Oh, my God, I'm going to introduce you to my dad. Thank you, everyone in the chat room. I can see it's a great show. Mike, thank you for persisting and trying to get back on the show.
Do it again next year. It gives me 12 months to learn what I'm doing.
I'll come over and show you what to do. Thank you so much. I can see everybody's comments. Thank you, Steph. Love the show. Loved hearing all the different memories. And there's so many more. There really are. There's so many more memories. I remember a friend of mine running up about 24 rows, and I'm not exaggerating, to kiss me. You know, and just loads of different things. It was wonderful. And I have done a blog. If anyone wants to read it, I'll post it on Twitter. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining me. Guys, see you next Tuesday night at 8:00 with the end of season awards on the Always Arsenal show. Again, please press like. Please press subscribe to the Same Old Arsenal channel. Please leave your comments in the box below. And remember,
it's up for grabs.
It's up for grabs now. We won it. The league on Merseyside. Always Arsenal. Never forget that. Thank you guys for joining us.